What's going on, everybody? Jackson Fuller here alongside Owen Hassell, and we're back, Owen. Kind of, sort of, in a way. It's almost football season, so it's time to start talking about it, right?
When is it not football season?
That's true. It's always you always have your eye on football season a little bit as a local high school, sports reporter and team that we've got here. But we're doing this video today because this Friday I'm having a story about 9 things to watch for the BB&T football Jamboree, which it's hard to believe is just 3 weeks away. In 3 short weeks, pretty much everybody from the area that's a football fan will converge on Legion Stadium and get to watch 5 really exciting scrimmages. So be on the lookout for that story, 9 things to watch. But today we each pick 2 of our favorite things that we're gonna, kind of eager to be looking out for the Jamboree when it arrives. And Owen, why don't you start first? I think one of the things you wanted to talk about was New Hanover at the football Jamboree.
We're used to New Hanover having exciting offense.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to throw the ball around a lot and just do a little bit of everything, but mostly through the air. Now, though, you've got a new head coach, Dylan Dimick, who's also going to be the offensive coordinator. So that's going to create something a bit different than maybe we've seen in previous New Hanover teams. I think you're going to see more of a run game, mostly because of the personnel.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times you just need to base what you're doing on your personnel. You've always seen some coaches try to push what they want.
Right.
Maybe you don't have the players for that. It sounds like Coach Dimick understands what his personnel is. Obviously, he's seen New Hanover a lot because he was a coordinator for Hoggard for a decade and was at Ashley before that. So he recognizes it and sees that he's got 3 backs, Jabez Howard, Jaheim Marshall, and Mekhi Stanley coming from Ashley. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, those 3 guys with the run game that New Hanover could really establish now that they have been missing a bit the last couple of years to better balance out the passing attack.
Right.
I'm not sure who the quarterback's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have a good idea.
I would, you have to think it probably will be Chase Nixon, but I know they're going to have a competition over there. But yeah, I mean, Blake Walston's gone, which is another part of it. I mean, one of the most talented passers that this area has ever seen, no longer with them. So there's going to be an identity change of sorts on offense. If they can really, like you said, I think they're going to be able to establish a power running game with guys like Mekhi and Jabez, and that's just going to open up the options for Jaheim and some of the other playmakers they have.
It's going to make the offensive line that much more important.
That's true, too.
What can New Hanover do to better protect?
Yeah.
Because that was a struggle.
Yeah.
Last year you could see Blake Walston running all over the place, frustrated with himself, and that just happens with time with a line that just couldn't quite handle
the better pass rushes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what happened there. But if you've got some running backs that can bounce to the outside, they can minimize some of that inexperience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think New Hanover could be poised to have another solid year. I don't see why New Hanover couldn't be in the top 2 or 3 in the conference.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's got to be the expectation over there. For me, one of the first things that I'm going to be looking at is Hoggard, who I think once again is poised to be kind of the class of this area and football, for at least from a talent perspective. But they lost a lot of talent at wide receiver and defensive back from last year. I mean, they had those 3 terrific wide receivers. Their entire secondary was filled with seniors. One Isaiah Kemp going to Duke. So can they fill those holes? I know, Coach Underwood is now coaching offense for Hoggard this year. He seems to be pretty optimistic about, the personnel that they're starting to develop over there. A guy like Rex Hardy, I think they're high on. Gabe Johnson's going to be a better quarterback. You saw the potential that he had as a sophomore with the Vikings. He's going to make that next step the next couple of years as a junior and senior, but he doesn't have the weapons that he had last year. If they can find a couple of wide receivers to go along with, you talk about offensive line, the Hoggard offensive line is going to be great this season. They're going to be able to run the football and really overpower, I think, a lot of the teams in the Mid-Eastern Conference, but their goal is to overpower teams in the state playoffs. And if they want to do that, they're going to have to be a balanced offense and find some wide receivers there. And then in the defensive backfield, those 4 seniors were just so good last year. I think, Isaiah missed a little bit early in the year, and they had a guy named Jadrian Chambers who came up and played, but otherwise it was those 4 seniors. So they're going to have a lot of new faces in the defensive backfield this season.
Hoggard's going to be disciplined.
Yeah.
Hoggard's going to be well coached. This isn't anything new for anybody who's looked at Hoggard the past 3, 4, 5, Braswell, Underwood years, whatever you want to put it out there. And there's going to be depth for Hoggard more often than not. the Hoggers going to be the team to beat in the Mid-Eastern Conference. I'm not saying anything once again.
No, you're not breaking any news here.
Nothing at all. At the same time, it will be interesting to see without Dylan Dimick as the offensive coordinator how Underwood works that. You're at a 4A school and you're going to be a head coach and an offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. That's a lot going on. It's going to take a couple of games with that.
And he called plays for the defense last year, but that's something he's been comfortable with and he's done for a while. This is obviously a new step for him, but he's a guy that likes the challenge, so I wouldn't be surprised
and
at all.
And you got a tough non-conference schedule.
They do. They have a very tough non-conference schedule. With Scotland County is going to be a really fun game to watch. Yeah. So, what about you, Owen? Another thing that you're looking out for at the Jamboree this year that you're excited to see?
Wallace Rose Hill.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about one of the best programs each and every year, whether it's 1A, 2A. You think of Wallace Rose Hill. Mm-hmm. It's just what they do.
And we don't get a chance to see them against these teams very often, but that's something the Jamboree provides.
It's a great opportunity. We all know Kevin Motzinger, former coach at New Hanover, always good for some quotes for us, and just a character, but a heck of a football coach, very well respected across the state, and for good reason. Last year, it was a sense of, okay, there's going to be some type of down year, but what's a down year for Wallace Rose Hill? What is that?
Right.
And I think we were all hesitant to say, well, there's no way they can't make it to at least the Eastern Final. Well, they didn't. Southwest Onslow was a strong team, and then Northeastern beats them and goes on to the state finals. So that the 2A East was stacked last year anyway, on top of Wallace bringing in some younger players, tough non-conference schedule again, Hurricane Florence. We got all that, but I think it definitely built in some more motivation. I might as well say that term with some younger guys, Kanye Roberts, Cameron Dalrymple. These are two running backs that if they're not 1 and 2 or maybe like 1 and 4 of the area's top rushers because of what Wallace Rose Hill does with the run game, I will be surprised.
Yeah, they're going to feed those two all season, and I've been saying it. They're not only two of the best running backs in the area. They're two of the best running backs in the state. Dalrymple's going to Navy. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Kanye, by the time he's a junior and senior, starts getting looked at by some Division I programs. And they're going to be a very fun team to follow all year, just because they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. Motzinger knows how to fire up a group, and after the way last year ended, which was still a great season for most high school football programs, but the standards are a little different down in Teachie.
I mean, we know a lot of programs in the state that would go third round. That's a fantastic year. Wallace Rose Hill goes, that's a horrible year. We are a terrible program. What are we going to do to get better? When none of that is the case whatsoever. Right. Wallace Rose Hill, I think we'll start doing Wallace Rose Hill things more often this fall.
Yep. And my second thing that I'm going to be looking out for at the Jamboree is actually who Wallace Rose Hill's playing there, and that's West Brunswick. I'm very high on the Trojans this year. I think that they've got some talent, and they were such a young team last year with a new head coach, just kind of learning on the fly. They changed their offense mid-season, but they still finished 4-3 in the Mid-Eastern Conference. And I think this year they've got a chance to be that second team in the 3A to catch Topsail and be right behind New Hanover. But it's going to come down to development of some key, skill position guys, and then Jay Fletcher, there's a senior quarterback who last year Coach Hickman was very high on, but he understood that Jay kind of had to learn things. He had never been a starting varsity quarterback before, a new offense, a new head coach. It was going to be a learning process for the entire team, and there's, no position on the field that has to be, more knowledgeable about what your offense and what your team's trying to accomplish in the quarterback position. I think if Jay Fletcher can take that next step this year, and, he doesn't have to be perfect. He can, be a game manager but make enough plays, and with guys like Javion McCray, Johnny Magby back there on the defensive side. I'm very high on Wallace Rose Hill. I'd like to see them come out and, I think I'm very high on West Brunswick. I'm high on Wallace Rose Hill too. I'd like to see West Brunswick come out against Wallace Rose Hill and have a good showing. I think, Wallace Rose Hill is going to be a little bit more talented and perhaps, a little bit more of a gelled unit at this early stage of the season, but West Brunswick has an opportunity to showcase that they're going to be a team to be reckoned with in the Mid-Eastern this year.
There's something to be said for a program that the local boy comes home, Brett Hickman.
Yeah.
And he comes in and says, here's some enthusiasm. I am high. I know this area. This is my area. And a lot of players that were surrounding him last year, it was basically their first year with varsity. So everything's starting fresh. You weren't starting with a senior that maybe had some experience, of course, but you were trying to learn, you were trying to teach your system and what you could be doing with the personnel around you.
Mm-hmm.
All those guys were learning from him.
Yeah.
It's fresh. It's fresh for all of them. You could all learn together, so to speak. And now you had that year. You had that transition period. It's done now.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's the year 2. Now it's to show those trying times will become successful times. And I was at that West Brunswick at Topsail game
Right.
last year. West Brunswick could have won that game.
Absolutely.
West Brunswick was in that game into the fourth quarter until a guy we call Noah Laval, everyone calls him, I guess, because it's his name.
LaValle.
Noah Laval, thank you, Jackson. That's why you cover high school sports much more often. Broke through for a couple rounds, but that was a tight game.
Mm-hmm.
So West Brunswick was in a number of games.
Yeah, and that game's in
year.
Charlotte this year. I think that's going to be a huge game for those two teams and their playoff hopes, because that was the difference between West Brunswick making the playoffs last year and not. So. Anyways, that's just some 4 quick things. I'll have the other 5 in a story online Friday morning, in the paper Saturday, and just very excited. The summer's almost over. I've had a good time kind of recuperating a little bit and not having to work every Friday night, but I'm thoroughly excited to get back out there for some Friday night football coming down the pipe. And 3 weeks, that's it till the Jamboree's here, in a month until the official start of the real start of the football season with the regular season. And as always, follow along with us throughout the upcoming year on Twitter at Star News Varsity, Facebook.com/Star News Varsity, and should be another fun year of high school football coming at us.